Hello, Molweni, Dumelani, to everybody that has joined us for this session. Thank you very much for joining the session and welcome to yet another SciFest Africa webinar. Now, for the first time in 24 years, this year, the festival has gone virtual, embarking on a 6-month virtual program consisting of presentations, panel discussions, science shows, workshops, amongst other things. Now, this year's theme is Take Root and Nurture, and it celebrates the year of international plant health, as was proclaimed by the United Nations. Now, our theme also recognizes that plants constitute the foundation for all life on Earth, ecosystem function, food security, and also boosts economic development. Now, this theme also feeds into the 2030 agenda for sustainable development and recognizes that plants are relevant in various disciplines. Now, it is this theme that informs our December focus, which is all about agriculture. Now, if you have missed any of the past events that we've had up until this point, please do not hesitate to visit our SciFest website and our Facebook page, where all past events have been stored for your convenience. Now, we can't talk about plants without talking about probably the most talked about plant, the most controversial plant in history, that is the cannabis sativa. Many names that it has as well, aka known as marijuana and many other things. And it is popularly known for its recreational purposes. But now there is more to this plant than meets the eye, as it has a variety of medical and industrial uses as well. Now, the cannabis industry in South Africa and the world is growing very quickly as farmers are cultivating this plant for production of medical material, beauty, lifestyle products, and there is just so much more that our panelists are going to let us in on today. So please do also comment in the question and answer session. For those of you who are with us on Zoom, please do comment in the question and answer session right at the bottom of your screen. That's where you can post your questions, and we will make sure that your questions do reach our panelists. And also, those of you who are on Facebook, you can join this conversation in the comments section. Now, to get to the panelists for today, we've got some very, very interesting panelists, some people who have been involved in the cannabis industry for many, many years, and people who have expertise in agriculture and all those sorts of things. First of all, we've got Dr. Mthatha, who is basically obtained his Bachelor of Science in Agriculture degree in Fort Hare University, also has a master's degree obtained in Ireland in also environmental resource management. He also is the Chief Director of Research and Technology Development Services in the Department of Rural Development and Agrarian Reform. Now, he also has various publications on biofertilization and bioconditioning effects. We welcome the doctor and we thank you very much for joining us on our panel today. And he will be giving us a presentation shortly on some of the matters that pertain to this. We've also got coming up, who's going to be giving us a presentation, Mr. Lucius Paleng, who is an agricultural economist for Trade Research Unit at the National Agricultural Marketing Council. We also have Dr. Thandeka Ruth Kunene, who describes herself as a cannabis fanatic, has a BSc in Applied Mathematics from UCT, an MBA, and also opened her first cannabis company many years ago that was called Hooked on Hemp. She has led a community-based research project as well to check if indeed hemp can create decent jobs in South Africa and rural conditions. Now, she is one of the founders of the Cannabis Development Council of South Africa and became its very first Secretary General. I will also later introduce you to some of our panelists that have also joined us, and they'll be joining us much later in the discussion after we've had the presentations, and we say hello to them and thank you very much for joining us in this session. Without wasting any time, let's get straight to our first presentation. I'd like to call forward Dr. Mfundo Maqubela to bring us our first presentation today.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, Kuhle. And I would like to take the opportunity to greet everybody who is listening and who is also watching this webinar. You gave a nice background on the plant health year, which is actually even this plant provides health despite considering the health of the plants. But the plant itself, cannabis, it provides health. But now my talk will be on the Eastern Cape Province cannabis industry development, looking into the farmer-centered approach, because what the Eastern Cape government did in this year, actually starting from last year, we decided to revive the utilization of this cannabis crop to drive the dwindling economy of the Eastern Cape province, and then ensuring that this plant, which just grows naturally in the province as a weed, is utilized to its full potential to improve the economy of the province and probably to contribute positively as well to the economy of the country. Now, I will start giving a background on the formalization of this cannabis industry in the province. The attempts to formalize the cannabis production in the Eastern Cape province started around in 1999. It's not a new thing. And then this was driven by the fact that the province is suitable for the crop. And also there is an interest from the producers of the crop, which we call the farmers. There is also a well-documented impact of the crop to income generation and hence improved community livelihoods. It is well known that there is an anticipated positive contribution of the crop to job creation with resultant decrease in unemployment and reduction in crime. There is positive contribution of the different value chains of cannabis to the economy of the province, and hence that will result to the improved GDP of the province and probably of the country. The support on the development of the industry had to be done in 3 phases. That is what the government decided to do in 1999. The government said, okay, what we will do, we'll start with the agronomic studies just to check if really this crop will do well in the province, despite the fact that we see it's growing naturally. But what would it to grow well if all the agronomic aspects are considered for it to make economic sense? And then the second aspect that the government did in 1999 was to ensure that the crop yield economic feasibility. We don't just produce, we produce to generate income. And then the last thing that the government said, we said that as government will concentrate on the agro-processing and marketing if we see that the crop really grows well and it has an economic sense in its growth. Of course, the first phase was completed and it specifically focused on the economic feasibility of the product of producing hemp fiber. The focus then from 1999 up to 2005, it was on hemp fiber. We know that cannabis, as you said correctly, Kuhle, is divided into marijuana and hemp, and probably other crops. The best performing hemp cultivars per district and local municipalities, that is another aspect that was considered on the first phase of the study. The management practices or husbandry for the hemp crop. So you can see that the first phase of the study in the Eastern Cape province only focused on hemp, particularly the fiber, looking into whether this crop will really generate income from the fiber. Following that, we saw some studies that were funded by some of our collaborators, especially Dr. Kunene, through her House of Hemp, that showed that some component of the hemp, or probably the whole cannabis plant, will generate more economic benefits than the fiber. In 2018, the sixth government administration encouraged the implementation of the second phase. That means now looking into the economic feasibility of the crop, rather than to sit and look into whether the crop grows and whether it will make any significance when it is growing. But this time, that means in 2018, the sixth administration said, let us listen to the farmers rather than to tell the farmers what we do. Let us listen to the farmers, what the farmers want this industry to look like. And that was done in a form of a stakeholder summit. It was done on the 1st and 2nd of August 2019. Stakeholders were given a chance to tell the government of the Eastern Cape province what they want this industry to look like. And if you look into the picture here, I hope you can see, it was taken in the afternoon. This venue is a venue that is supposed to carry about 200 people, but 400 people turned out instead of 200 people who were invited. You can see the interest of the stakeholders to drive the economy using cannabis in the Eastern Cape province, and probably for the benefit of the whole country. But in the engagements, the areas that were looked at were the cannabis legal framework or the legal environment, because this is seen as the major restrictor of the development of this crop in the whole country, probably in the whole world. And then the other aspect that we looked at, it was the production, research and development. The other aspect was human resource development. And then the last aspect was agro-processing and marketing. Indeed, people talked. They told the government, when they looked into the cannabis legal framework, they said that the permits and licenses must be easy to find by all types of farmers. And then they told the government that the government must consider not regulating cannabis with less than 2% THC. They said that the government must permit, the permit issues must be provided by the provincial government and not the national government, as it is happening now. And then also the people said that the government must assist farmers with the permits to produce. And then actually we realized that there were 27 farmers already with permit in the province in 2019. With regards to the production, research and development, the farmers told the government that the government must facilitate investment to conduct production, to conduct research and to conduct development. There must be investors that are supporting that. The government must facilitate technical support for improved quality and quantity produced. The research must be conducted for new technologies that are compatible to the Eastern Cape province. And then again, the farmers told the government that indigenous knowledge must be recognized and it must be protected. So this is what the stakeholders were telling the government in that summit. With regard to human resource development, farmers told the government that they need to be trained to produce according to the dictates of the people who wants the products. They need to be trained in the whole value chain of the crop. And also that there has to be an institution that are established in the province so that the people are trained in their proximity, not that they are transported for 200 or more than 200 kilometers for them to get training. That is what the stakeholders told the government. On agro-processing and marketing, and then the stakeholders told the government that agro-processing and marketing must be facilitated so that farmers benefit accordingly, not at the detriment of the investors. Then the farmers also told the government that the government must try to ensure that there is an availability of the machinery for the agro-processing. And then also we have to establish the cottage centers or transport resources to transport the produce. Right, the progress continues. The provincial and national investors were and are still engaged to assist in the cannabis production. The current 27 hemp permit farmers were engaged to determine their needs. Their needs were the hemp seed. That is what the farmers in the Eastern Cape province are most of the time needing. They need the seed, they need the fencing material, they need the fertilizers, they need the inputs. Some of them, they have already the technical aspects, but their technical aspects, sometimes they are not really in line with the requirements of the people who will be buying the seeds. Farmers who need permits and licenses are assisted with relevant information. That is what the government is doing now. There are pronouncements that were made by the president in the State of the Nation address, by the premier in the State of the Province address, by the Honorable MEC in her policy speech, and then by the municipalities, by the municipality mayors in their municipal speeches. They committed themselves to support the production of cannabis in 2019, 2020, going forward, actually. I'm talking about the progress that is taking place for now. There's the National Department of Health legislated on permits for hemp to be done by the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development. So now the permits for the hemp, they will no longer be issued by the Department of Health, but they will be issued by the Department of Agriculture nationally. I will just try to skip some of the statements here and come to this one that is, I think is very important. There is a destigmatization of the crop by the province. The province is doing a lot of awareness campaigns to destigmatize the crop. And as such, in that process, there are 600 cannabis producers who form the database of the province as the producers of cannabis in the province. The province also participate in the National Cannabis Master Plan, because now the province and the national government has what is called the National Cannabis Master Plan that will drive now or give the direction as to how the cannabis will be produced in the country. And also the province assisted the farmers to participate in the bill for private purposes that is trying to be addressing the Constitutional Court ruling of 2018 on the issue of the utilization of marijuana for private purposes. These are the pictures that are showing the engagement that took place in different places in the province on the engagement of the bill. This one, it was for the provincial top management. It was held in East London. The second one was held in Sikisiki for all the farmers in the eastern part of the province. The third one was held at Mthatha for the middle part of the province. And then also the western part of the province. The province decided to be more serious on this cannabis thing because it established a technical advisory team constituted of 3 technical specialists on the subject matter. These specialists are advising the Honorable MEC. There is a photo here of the 3 specialists sitting with the Honorable MEC Meth, who are the people who are advising the province and the Honorable MEC and the Premier in the province. Mainly, ladies and gentlemen, that is what the presentation is all about. The support that is given by the government to the farmers, hearing from the farmers what they want. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. There are definitely already many questions that have come from those who are with us in the session. But obviously, we will take your questions after all 3 presentations have already come. So that was Dr. Mfundo Maqubela. He is, of course, the Chief Director of Research and Technology Development Services in the Department of Rural Development and Agrarian Reform. Thank you very much for that presentation, and I assure you to stay with us, as a lot of questions will be coming up after these presentations are done. Our next speaker, our next presenter is Mr. Lucius Paleng, who, as I've already said, is an agricultural economist for Trade Research Unit at the National Agricultural Marketing Council. Now, his current role encompasses trade research and advisory in marketing of agricultural commodities. Academically, he holds an MSc in agricultural economies from the University of Northwest, and with research interests that are on international trade policy, non-tariff barriers to trade, and trade data analysis and economic models. I'll be handing over the reins to Mr. Lucius Paleng.
Thank you, Chairperson, for a good introduction. I'm not sure if you can all see my presentation.
Lucius, just do the switch again, please, for me. Switch it on your display settings. We're not getting full screen right now. We're getting presenter view. Okay. So click on display settings and swap here. Thank you. Perfect. Now? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Chairperson, and all the audience. And my name is Lucius Paleng, and I'm also from NMC. So my presentation will be based on the cannabis market overview. So I will touch the global context and also the local context, and some of the bottlenecks which are hindering our cannabis industry, especially when we talk about the commercialization of the industry. So in a global context, I think there is a huge potential for the cannabis industry. And these lessons, I think we can learn from other countries who are currently planting this cannabis on a commercial level. So the countries such as Spain, Portugal, and Canada, and also Uruguay, they are currently more commercialized when it comes to the cannabis industry. So I think those are some of the lessons that we can learn from them. And also on our side, on the South African side, we can see that this industry is still a new industry to us, as we are still looking on the commercialization of the industry. So within the continent, there are only few countries that are currently producing this cannabis. And I'm going to mention the few, the likes of Nigeria, Ethiopia, Egypt, and DRC. Those are the countries that are currently producing this cannabis on a larger scale. But when we look on the potential of this cannabis industry, so within South Africa, it is estimated to create around 10,000 to 25,000 jobs. This is across all the entire value chain. And there is a great potential, and also we need to get a proper assessment or proper establishment of this industry, so that all the role players within the value chain, they can also benefit, and also obviously it will benefit our economy in terms of exporting some of the processed materials such as medicines. So when we look on the opportunities, especially when we check the South African cannabis market, so this is a very focused figures, which shows that there is a huge demand of this commodity product within the country. So mainly are more on medical cannabis market, which possess low market value when we compare it with the recreational cannabis market. So this shows that there's an existing market, there's a huge demand within the country and also in the global market, especially within the region. So when we check some of the opportunities or the setbacks or the politics that are currently existing within the South Africa. So within South Africa, there are two legislation which regulates this cannabis and also related matters. So I'm going to mention those regulations, which is Drug and Drug Trafficking Act, and also the Medicine and Related Substance Control. So there is a conflict between this legislation, especially when we talk about commercializing this cannabis industry. So we saw that even though there's a schedule in the Medicine and Related Substance Control had been amended soon, so just to reschedule this cannabis. So when we look on the Drug and Drug Trafficking Act, it is still illegal in terms of the Drug and Drug Trafficking Act. That's why the commercialization is not permitted by law. So there is a conflict between the two acts. And also on the other hand, even if the cannabis bill is put into place in the near future, it will still not address the challenges of the commercialization of the industry. As a scope of the bill currently, it's very narrow and only address the private cultivation and possession and the use of these cannabis materials. So some of the possible solutions to this will be to compile a comprehensive bill, which also provide for commercialization of cannabis. Alternatively, we can consider to create some of the policy frameworks to make this provision for the drafting of the commercialized cannabis legislation. So we need those legislation which are more focused on the commercialization of the cannabis industry. And also the two acts, we need to address the conflict because they always conflict each other, especially on the legalization of this cannabis. So there are huge opportunities and market channels within the cannabis industry that our potential farmers can tap in. So there is a channel for medicine where it's aligned with the treatment or development of medicines, which can be able to treat the likes of chronic pains. So also on the industrial side, there is a textile and clothing that our potential farmers or the growers, they can also tap in, as this is quite a number of opportunities that our potential farmers can look at. And currently at the NMC, as we are the ones who are coordinating the implementation of this master plan. So currently we have developed a cannabis industry master plan, which focus on several pillars. And the reason why we have this master plan within the cannabis industry is to make sure that there is a commercialization of this cannabis And also there's all the role players or within the value chain are also benefiting. And so I'm just gonna try and discuss some of the pillars that we have here. And also before that, the aim of the master plan, initially it was aimed at providing the framework for the establishment, growth, and development of the cannabis industry in South Africa in order for the industry to contribute to the growth and also the poverty alleviation, because most of our rural farmers, they do have a land, but the problem is the choice of a commodity that they can plant. And there is the room where our farmers, especially in the rural areas, they are willing to plant this plant. So there is a huge support that we need to give them, and also in terms of the investment. So some of the pillars, the effective regulatory system. This one focus on the developing the new regulatory framework for both hemp and Mthatha. So this include the amendment of the existing legislation by removing the existing constraints that are affecting the commercialization of this industry, because there is quite a number of challenges which are facing this industry, and it creates that barrier for our potential farmers to tap into the industry. And also some of the huge requirements, the licensing, which they are very expensive for our farmers. And the second one was to look at the sustainable seed supply system. So this one focused on the production, the processing and the packaging, and also the trade of seeds and also the related products. So this will include also the supporting breeding programs for cannabis. So the third one, which is more critical, is more on the research and also technology development, which aim at supporting the research and development program for the South African cannabis industry. So this will obviously include the breeding programs, development of new technologies that might be needed in the production processes of this cannabis and across the value chain. And there is one for sustainable producer support system. So this one looked at mobilization and supporting for farmers so that they can equally participate in the cannabis value chain. So this will also involve the inclusion of the current illegal Mthatha growers in the formal system. And the last one was on the development of the market, which is the one that I'm more interested in, which is focusing on the developing of new domestic and also export market for South African cannabis. So there's a huge potential, as I've mentioned, that there's a huge demand within the country and also in the global markets. So the development of this industry will actually uplift our economy within South Africa and also contribute to the development of the agri sector. So my presentation is very short, and I think the next slide is my conclusion. And I would like to thank everyone and also for the opportunity that has been granted. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was indeed a very informative presentation, and I can assure you again that, that there already has been quite a number of questions that have come in. I'll try to remember which questions are being directed to which particular speaker. But yeah, that was Mr. Lucius Paleng, and the agricultural economist for the Trade Research Unit at the National Agricultural Marketing Council. Okay, with that done, we go to our last presentation for today. And of course, it being our last presentation doesn't mean that we are nearing the end of this particular program. It just means that we actually get to the exciting part of the program, which is where we get to engage with our speakers and with one another on this particular issue. I can see that also with some of our participants, there are some people as well who are also experts in their own right, who also have quite a lot of information that they wish to share in this very informative session. Our next speaker, Dr. Thandeka Ruth Kunene, she basically describes herself as a cannabis fanatic. She has a BSc in applied mathematics from UCT and an MBA. The name of Thandeka's first cannabis company, which she formed many years ago, was called Hooked on Hemp. She has led community-based research project to check if indeed hemp can create decent jobs in the South African rural conditions. She was also one of the founders of the Cannabis Development Council of South Africa and was also its first Secretary General. Dr. Thandeka Ruth Kunene, I will hand everything over to you. Thank you for joining us.
Greetings. I'll try to go very fast on my presentation, which I'm sharing. I've called it the roadmap. I'm just trying to get my things okay here. Roadmap to cannabis commercial farming in South Africa today, a case study of House of Hemp. Opportunity. It's possible to legally produce cannabis in South Africa today, and the cannabis opportunities cut across health, agriculture, and all sorts of industry. And South Africa has a chance to become a world leader. Problem, I hear cannabis can make lots of money, but what can I really do in the cannabis space to have my share of that money? And the reality is that cannabis is global, it's a commodity that's global. Competing in it is not so easy. How is South Africa going to compete when we are just waking up, when Israel was publishing documents about medical cannabis in the 60s and the 70s? Okay, a whole list of factors that impact South Africa cannabis being competitive. Most important is human capital development and research and development, because those two can give us the rest of that list, like innovation, methods and tools. We need to be able to get there and go for it. Okay, the first opportunity I explored as House of Hemp, actually as Hooked on Hemp, was how can we get scientific solutions to use cannabis and its rotational cropping to help deliver the needy and the poor from the wicked hands of poverty and disease. That's how we got into and we thought, okay, if we show people the opportunities and we help them incubate and accelerate and link SMMEs to markets and incubate SMMEs, giving them networking, funding and all of that, maybe we've got a chance, especially if we target beneficiaries, communities that have got what is called IKS rights to cannabis, like Amampondo, like the Rastas, like Abelaphi Zangoma. And generally, women, cannabis is a women thing, people living with disabilities, the youths. If we don't get youths involved in agriculture, and cannabis is a great solution, and for the youth to like agriculture again, and the military vets, just solely for the fact that security is so big in cannabis. And we went through years and years with people like Dr. Makubela, people like Medigrow, the Hemporiums, ARC, CSIR, where we put together what an incubation could look like. So that's the first opportunity where you're actually training and you are helping people become competitive in South Africa. But I found that it's no use to teach if you can't do it. So we looked and said, okay, where are the business opportunities? When you are farming seeds, stalks of fiber, and it goes really into oil extraction, fiber extraction, and medicine extraction. And in the seeds, there's breeding and seed multiplication, and of course, sharing the information opportunity there. There's actually buying and selling and delivering seeds, making sure the seeds are high quality. There's a whole lot of opportunities in farming. All the pictures you see there are actually what we actually did in South Africa with the Department of Agriculture in the Eastern Cape and Department of Agriculture nationally and the ARC to look at where is this deliver the needy and the poor from the wicked hands of poverty. Then there's opportunities around stock. So if you say stock, it's going to extraction of stock, which goes into textiles, which can be distributed, which goes into building materials and paper. Lots of job creation. Agriculture multiplied by textiles is lots of jobs. We were looking at hundreds of thousands of jobs, 10 jobs per hectare. Then you can also harvest the seeds. When we were growing the fiber, we realized that you can harvest the seed. And from the seed, oh my gosh, cosmetics, animal feed, human consumptions with the protein powder. So the opportunities are there, okay? And we went and did it. Like you saw here, we actually set up a small scale decortication. Here we set up a small scale oil pressing machine. It's doable. Then in 2014, South Africa opened the medical cannabis, and through Ambrosini, IFP, MP in Parliament. And we, by coincidence, we found the CBD in hemp flowers in our last phase trial, because we were focusing on food and textiles. And then 2017, MCC said, go for it. And in 2018, SAPRA published the things. And then another opportunity that came immediately was the analytical opportunities. That's me having run down the opportunities that are there. There's many in many directions. Case study, House of Hemp, next 5 minutes. House of Hemp, we started 1998. We went right up by 2009, we were given permits to conduct a pre-commercial trial. We were working with government all along because we thought if we work with government, including Eastern Cape, like Dr. Makulawati said, we've been working since 1999, and a lot of people think we've done nothing, but it was to look, where are the opportunities? And my summary shows what we did together. The opportunities are there. We were given the permits to conduct pre-commercial trials in rural areas, so it can be done in rural areas. And then that continued, oh Lord, government is so slow, right until we got the first medical cannabis manufacturing letter, resolution letter, which was 2019. So from 1999, when Department of Agriculture launched it, to 2019, 20 years, really South Africa, I would say, wasted time. Okay, but now we are seeing the whole world is going in cannabis. Us as House of Hemp, when we look, because we've done seed, stocks, and now flour was available, we decided we are going to go with flour precisely because of the numbers, as you can see. Fibers, 20 Rand a kilo, seed, 200 Rand a kilo, flour, $2,000 a kilo. It's going down now because the whole world is opening up. Then we made a decision and said, listen, we are going to produce the highest quality cannabis buds. And then we had to say, okay, now you can, what can you do? There's 4 aspects to government: license, offtake, operational capacity, and finance. Commercial farmer, you cannot do if you don't have these 4 things. License requirements, that whole list. Site, it must be secured, documents, vetted, a whole list of things. And 2 challenges. We thought, my goodness, it looks like the poor and the historically disadvantaged are in trouble here. And 2, it looks like if you are a black and you want to get involved, you are going to be like a slave because you don't have money to set up all these things. But luckily, we got white investors. We sold them 38% of House of Hemp, and we started the process. We have to get a license through the regulations that the gentleman before me spoke about. We decided we're going to eThekwini, a Dube trade port. We went and we hired it. That's why we needed a financial partner, because it was state of the art, and it had a lab, and it had greening, and you know, it had also tissue culture. So we thought, okay, we can compete with the world. And of course, South Africa is attractive to the world because it's low cost base, there's labor, ideal climate, and there's favorable legal environment actually. It's one of the first. But now we have the license, so what? It's just another business startup. And it has to go through all the stages of identifying the business and making a decision to proceed, set up, find money and set up, and then try to grow the venture. Okay, so we've now got the license. What do we need? Offtake. You heard from the gentleman, he says 660 million in South Africa. In the world, we're looking at 11 billion, 96 billion in the US, cannabis. So yes, and us in South Africa, we can export. So the world is our oyster, if we can get it right. I'm talking medical cannabis. Operational capacity, we've got the best operational capacity, but we still need GACP, good agricultural growing practice, GSP, general security practice, good laboratory practice, good manufacturing practice, and import and export permits. You need all those permits to be able to supply the international markets. So the license was really the beginning of it all. And what we had, we also had capacity to research into further cannabinoids, because there is 400 cannabinoids and there's only 3 that are selling: THC, CBD, and a new one that came in the line last year, CBG. Operational capacity, you have to have your people. And when you do your license, you must stipulate utandega uzoyenza so, ulex uzoyenza so. And you must have all those heads: security, legal, infrastructure, marketing, a team of advisors, operations, which includes all the growing. That's very important. And then you have to have R&D and compliance. Without that, including a responsible pharmacist, you actually don't have, you can't apply. Then you must sit down as a team and check your SWOT analysis. And then you must look at your highlights. And they are there. It looks like, even though in the time of Corona, they are there. You know, a large and fast growing market, strong proposition, timely opportunity, and we've got the right team. Hey, we're going for it. And then you must have an actual implementation timeline. There's no, hey, I'm thinking about it, it can create jobs. What will it do in task 1 up to task 21? And now, once you have all of that and you're clear, you go look for money. Without the money, nothing can happen. So now what we want to do, it needs 45 million US minimum for phase 122. Then you must be able to summarize what you're going to use your money for and explain, which before you make sale, there's money that you're going to use, but you know, there's no sale. So it's going to be just gray like that. And you must now argue why you are worth so much. I'm selling 49% of House of Hemp. Why am I worth so much? You write all the people, your canopy growth, how much they are worth, what they are doing. And then you must look at, compare it with alcohol and tobacco companies, especially if you want to get into responsible adult use, because medical, I'd supply both medical and responsible adult use. Then you must be able to give your medium to long term and a 3-year with a 1-year exact. If you're able to do all those 4, and you're in Durban, and you've got a facility like I have, and you've got a license like I have, and you've got operational capacity, and you've got an offtake, I mean, South Africa we've got Durban poison, we can actually kill the market. South Africa, you know, then we can actually do even nicer other things. Go back to my original vision. How do I now, as a cannabis conglomerate, cannabis mogul, a fanatic, take this cannabis and go to my people and say, my profit, we've got 100%, I've sold 38%, I'm selling another 50%, I'll be left with about 7%, and maybe with other blacks, we'll be left with about 31%. Once we do that, our profit, which should be a lot, take it back and see, how can I help people to do the hemp, the oil, the medicine at rural areas, because cannabis can help us create abundance by creating wealth and jobs. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much, Mama. Thank you very much for a very, very informative and lively presentation. So some very interesting points. You're talking about finances, you're talking about licensing, and you're talking about operational capabilities. So I want us to start right at the beginning. Many questions that are coming in to say, how do we actually get off the start line as a person who is interested in this industry? So we have a lot of questions about licensing. So that is where I think we should start our discussion. Now, the two panelists that we have that are going to be also helping us with this particular discussion, we've got Amanda Mafanya, and also we've got Siviwe Koni, who are here with us in this session as well. So I don't know, both of them have companies, both of them, or have in some manner are practicing this sale and distribution and farming processes. So we would like to know from you, how did you go about beginning this process? How did you go about gaining the licenses? And what challenges have you guys met with regards to that particular licensing process? Now, Amanda, who I'm going to give the floor first, she comes from Mthatha in the Eastern Cape and resides in CapeTown currently. She's a diploma in film and TV production techniques and advanced certificate in photography and video production. She also works in the film industry and has been a freelance filmmaker since 2011. Now, apart from being in the film industry, she has a company called Organic Inc. This company is a consultation agency focusing on book publishing and wellness advisory. Now, Amanda also has an online company selling daily supplements under the banner My Daily Choice, where she not only sells but brings awareness to the use of hemp under the brand Hemp Works. She aims also to use the film medium to bring more awareness to the uses of hemp and the importance of agriculture and organic living, and as it not only attributes to the economy, but also contributes to healthier bodies and healthier minds. I'll hand over to you, Amanda. A lot of questions that have been coming in about that licensing process. Please start this discussion for us.
Hi there. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you to our presenters. They actually, it was very enlightening and just prompted me to have actually a couple of more questions. With regards to me and My Daily Choice, which is the cannabis side of my company, it's kind of like a safe cheat, so to say, because it's an American-based company. What you do is you register online, and then they take care of everything in terms of licensing and whatnot. And all you do is you sell the products locally. So for me, by signing up and going through the training, I automatically gained those licenses, and I was able to. Hence, I have everything I do is online. And if ever someone needs a product from me, I direct them to my online business, which is a self-help setup. So this platform actually, it's very interesting in terms of all the questions that I had in terms of going into farming and having my own business locally, and it be locally based. It's opening up a whole new world, and it's very exciting, and it's something that I would like to engage further. And yeah, I do also have, like, especially when it came to marketing, which is kind of where I am, it was something that, like, I found it piqued my interest in terms of the marketing aspect, and also just getting that broader base in terms of reaching, giving awareness to people. So I'm looking forward to engaging even further.
Thank you very much, Amanda. So we also have Siviwe Koni with us, who is a farming practitioner who incorporates aspects of horticulture, permaculture, and other indigenous methods of farming. And he also wanted to be joining us and be part of this discussion today. Siviwe? Siviwe, are you there? Okay, it seems as though we've lost Siviwe for a moment. So moving right along quickly, if we get him back there, we'll get to hear his contribution. So to the questions that have come to our panelists, to Lucius and to the two doctors, as I said, what really everybody is talking about in many of the comment sections, the common theme is people want to know step by step. In fact, especially when it comes particularly to licensing, what are the policies that are in place when it comes to licensing? Who is allowed to trade cannabis? And for me, who is just, you know, the average citizen who has this idea, who has this dream, and who has this plan, where do I go? In my own city, in my own town, what department do I approach in order to really begin and get this licensing processing off the ground? I'll leave that to any of the three of you to tackle.
Also, maybe let me start as my Makubela. Actually, you see, in the province, in the Eastern Cape province, we used to issue the permits for hemp as the province when we started in 1999. Dr. Kunene knows this. We were facilitating this together. And then as time went on, the permits for hemp were taken back by the National Department of Health, probably because people were not trusted anymore to be given the hemp permits. It was felt that they must be seriously controlled so that people, they don't plant dacha in between the hemp. So again, in March or in May last year, the Department of Health decided to bring back the permits for hemp to the Department of Agriculture nationally. We are canvassing as the province that they must come back to the province because hemp has been recognized, or it has been proved beyond doubt that it doesn't have any psychoactive properties, so it doesn't have to be treated like marijuana or umya. With regards to the license for umya or marijuana, that one, people, they go to the Department of Health and use their entity that is called the South African Health Products Regulatory Authority, which is abbreviated as SAPRA. That is South African Health Product Regulatory Authority. So if you Google that, you will be able to see the guidelines as to how to apply for the license for the production of umya, whether it's primary production or secondary production or tertiary production. So that is what the status is as at now with regard to the license. But with the license is very clear, anybody can apply for it even this afternoon or tomorrow. But with the hemp permits, people, they will still have to wait for next year for the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development to give guidance as to what are the guidelines for the application for the hemp permits. So that is the situation. And as I said, we as a province, we are trying to convince the Department of Agriculture nationally that they must give back to us that responsibility so that the farmers can simply apply to us. So in the Eastern Cape province, we tell our farmers that they must wait for next year. Next year, they will give them the guidelines, and then they will tell them exactly how to apply for the hemp permits. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Another question that was directly for you, Amanda, from Ozamapele, asking, was the process of registering with an overseas-based company simple? Is the process open to anyone, or does it have specific requirements that it needs to meet?
Yeah, the process itself is simple. It's a matter of you clicking on the website link, familiarizing yourself with the uses and also the guidelines of the company, and to be in line with what they are hoping to achieve. Other than that, it's very simple. It's very quick, and you just go through the training, which is like a 4-step training. It's open to anyone.
All right, thank you for that answer. And still with the licensing, Peter Cook says they are in the process of starting a cannabis greenhouse operation. And he says that he understands that if you pay the license fee and you comply with the security protocol, you may go ahead without waiting for the license to arrive. He wants to know, is this true? And also, what is the current cost for a growing license? That I think I'll hand to you, Dr. Makubela.
Probably I can ask Dr. Kunene to come in here, but especially in terms of the current costs. But in terms of production, when you don't have a license, that is that will be the SAPRA recommendation, but it's not acceptable. It's just not acceptable. The policeman will can easily arrest you, whether you are growing in the tunnel houses or whether you are growing on the open land. You have to ensure that you have the license first. Those are the guidelines that we get from their guiding books, both for hemp and for umya. In terms of the costs, Dr. Kunene will probably give the latest figures. Thanks.
For hemp, while it was with the Department of Health, it was 905. And those figures are going to change when the Department of Agriculture bring it out. And we are hoping it comes out early next year for hemp, but the ones who got the hemp permits renewed under Department of Health, which ended, the ones that were renewed this year were the last ones to be renewed under Department of Health. It was 905 rands. It shouldn't be much more than that under Department of Agriculture. And then under SAPRA, the commercial license to cultivate medical and complementary and alternative medicines is 21,800 to apply for the license, plus the cost of all the site inspections. And maybe you'll have maybe 3 site inspections, including the verification. Each site inspection will be about 3,500, so another 10,000. So maybe all in all, it's about 31,000 that you have to have. And you have to have secured your site and prepared your site. It then depends on you and your site. And security is very important there. And you must have all your quality systems in place to be able to make a full application. I don't know if you can apply and then produce because you've applied. You can try. I don't know. And then there's another license that is coming up, and people must pressurize all their government officials on the SAPS and regulatory, is on the responsible adult use. Responsible adult use is legal now in South Africa. It's a human right. And there's gonna be a license like what that sister with your online shop, it should be able to cover all sorts of cannabis. Because cannabis is now legal. So we must look out for those distribution and those handling permits. And we must start now. Also in your indigenous communities, if you are Zulu, Pondo, any community that has got links to cannabis umya, must link with their traditional authorities so that maybe our government can agree to give trading licenses of responsible adult use to only South African indigenous people, so that if you are an American, you must link with an Amanda, and she must not just be an agent, but she must be an agent plus partner, something like that. Yes, so that license, the cost is not coming out yet. The comments closed end of November, but I'm sure we'll hear, and we must all be putting pressure on our Department of Agriculture, on our police, and on our kings and traditional authorities in our areas around the responsible adult use. Remember, everywhere, medical market is far less than the responsible adult use market, which is called recreational. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that very insightful and informative answer. While we actually still have you, Dr. Thandeka, Dr. Kunene, another question that was directed at you is that since you've been in the industry for so long and through your research, have you actually noticed the actual impact on the communities that such farming happens in, that goes beyond employment? Has the business increased intake within communities? And a two-pronged part to that question as well, and I'll let Lucius come in on this one as well, is that it is clear that we are talking about finance. We are talking about money, and as you mentioned, Dr. Kunene, is that finance is a very important part of this puzzle of participating in this industry. So when we talk now about Black communities, we talk about Black farmers, and considering obviously the historic and political issues that put Black people and Black farmers at a disadvantage, how can we mitigate these financial issues or these financial, what can I say, barriers and hindrances to people who come from Black communities that wish to participate? So there's two parts to that question, which is, have you seen it change communities? Have you seen it bring money into communities? And secondly, to those who want to participate, how can they? Are there programs in place to kind of help with those financial barriers?
If I can start, please. I'll start with that first question about the impact. There's two parts of that question. One was when we did the first phase of the research, just when we're just doing research, but we took it to the communities. When we did that, a lot of communities were participating in the research part, and it was a experimental research. So we ended up, just on that small research, we ended up employing about 385 people. So in terms of proof of concept, that has been done. But all the money was there. Second question, all the money was there. There was collective marketing of whatever they were producing, the farmers. That's the first one. You have to have license, one. Two, you have to know where is the money going to. Where is the harvest going to? And three, you then have to have the money to help the people get tractors, fence their land, pay the labor for those 3-4 months when they're working. If you don't have those and train them to be able to work, that's where the ARC and the extension officers were doing, pay the money. The Department of Agriculture and the DTI had put some money for the experimental research. It proved which is possible. Problem, after the phase of the experimental research, there's no money to actually invest in these SMMEs, emerging farmers. That's the answer to your second question. Without that, forget it. Forget it. It's just another business, and you're just a Black person who's got a great idea, who may have some half capacity, and you need to be capacitated further, you need to be trained. If you don't have it and you don't have someone who's buying the product, there's no business. That's what's said. And so our government, and not ourselves, first of all, we must try. Each person must try. And then our government, the incentives that our government have, they have to direct it to our people. They have to, and private sector must also come on board. And then we can make it. So first answer, yes, in a small way. But when you look, it hasn't done anything. But when you look at the impact, the number of people who are interested, who are innovating around there, you can see the potential. Block for the historically disadvantaged, finance and access to markets and access to technical and know-how. Stops. That's my answer. So it's scary. I can't say cannabis can remove the poverty and solve the disease. I can say cannabis can remove, and its reputational cropping can remove the poverty and the disease if We have a system that allows those who don't have to reach finance, markets, and technical know-how. Thank you.
Probably if I can add, on what Doc has said. Actually, it was very interesting when we were doing this engagement of farmers on this cannabis bill for private purposes, because we heard a lot directly from them that the cannabis has been income generator. People used to be sent to universities. They are making living from this crop, even though they are doing it illegally. You see, so it has a lot of benefits, not economically direct per se, but health-wise, the traditional people, they say that they are using to heal people who probably could have spent a lot of money from private hospitals and buying medicines. So quantifying or trying to do the analysis of economy using the direct finances rather than the spin-offs might hide really the benefits of cannabis. But really, yes, I fully agree with Dr. Kunene. We also learned a lot during the interactions. Coming to the second part of the question, as government now, we are trying to lobby, as Dr. Kunene is saying, the private sector, the what are these, the investors to come and invest on this industry. Some will come in the form of market, some will come in the form of injecting capital and all forms of assistance. So that is a process on its own that as government we will be fully participating on after we had been informed by the people themselves, I mean the farmers, what they actually want this industry to look like. So thank you very much.
Can I come in, Kutle?
Yes, go for it, Lucius.
Yes, I'm just gonna express the same sentiment with the previous doctors that highlighted, especially on the benefit of this cannabis, especially in most of the rural areas. So there's been several rural communities that have been cultivating this, and they've been selling that for decades now. So, and this have proven, even if they were planting illegally so, but this has managed to contribute to the improved livelihood, especially on the household level, as well as the economic development in those communities. So this dacha was mainly sold to be used for recreational purposes in large cities and towns, and there was a bit of illegally exportation of this dacha out of South Africa. And when it comes to investment, the issue of money, so I think what is needed, especially when we look on our rural farmers who are based in rural areas, they are more disadvantaged. And obviously, when you need to commercialize this crop, there is a lot of capital that is involved. And we know that usually the money is sitting with the private sector. So what do we need to do? We need to form like a private-public partnership that will allow, on the public side, will come with our rural farmers who are intending to grow this commodity. And also from the private side will come with the investors. They can invest in funding or the machinery or the trainings in production of that commodity. So yes, that's what I wanted to also share in agreement with the previous doctors.
Right. I think a lot of the concerns, obviously, that are coming from some of the participants stem from the fact that it sounds like with some of the policy and bills that are being developed at the moment, it's being thought about from a top-down point of view, where it's like there are big pharmaceutical companies and big commercial farmers that are being prioritized in the development of this legislation, where we know that, especially in the Eastern Cape, there's always been a micro sector with regards to this business that has operated, whether it has operated illegally or not over the last many years. And many people are saying, why can't we have a policy or a bill or whatever it is that actually starts at the bottom in terms of its in terms of the way that it is crafted, one that actually prioritizes the micro business and that prioritizes informal traders as well. Because as we know, in business in South Africa, informal traders are indeed recognized, but in this particular industry now, because of all these licensing processes and all these financial inhibitors involved, it starts now to become a process where the micro is no longer prioritized. So I don't know, Lucius, how do you think going forward in terms of economic policy, maybe this should be approached?
Thanks, Kutle. Yes, I think the issue here currently with the current bill that is existing, it's very narrow. I think I've highlighted that during my presentation, and it only addressed the private cultivation. So it's either we amend it to include like a public cultivation where everyone can tap in and also contribute to within the value chain. So the possible way is to compile a very comprehensive cannabis bill, which will provide for the commercialization of this cannabis. So if that fails, we can also create a policy framework which will make a provision for the drafting of commercialized cannabis legislation. So I think that's what it can be done in development and also in inclusion of everyone to contribute in the cannabis industry.
And again, as we are very much not removed from you, Lucius, a question coming in from Carmen Anderson that says, you know, we really need to try and make sure that we beneficiate the product within South African borders, unlike what we do with most of our raw materials already as a country, which is the fact that, you know, overseas traders and exporting is what are the main beneficiaries of our raw materials. How then can we again develop something that ensures that the local industry, local factories, local farmers are prioritized? Is this a focus?
Thanks, Kutle. I think that question is not only focused only on cannabis. And we can say all the agricultural commodities, we tend to export more of these raw materials. And the reason being, or some of the reason will be that the issue of the agro-processing. So we can talk about commercializing cannabis industry and also so that we can produce the medicinal product. But also that needs to be processed. So meaning that we also need a lot of investment, a lot of new technologies that we need to adopt maybe in support of the international investors in order for us, instead of importing that medicinal product, we can also produce them locally, which is going to benefit the local producers or the local farmers who are producing the raw product. And instead of importing the medicinal one, because also as we are importing, we are also discouraging our economic development. So with the exports, there will be a growth in economic development. So I think the main issue is the issue of the agro processing. If our farmers, they really need to benefit instead of exporting those raw materials, because we export raw materials, then after we are going to import the processed one, which have high value if we compare them with the raw materials. Thanks, Kutle.
To Dr. Kunene, what the Mhlengi Mkhize wants to know, what platform can one affiliate with in order to be constantly updated with the current relevant laws, policies, legislations, opportunities, networks, and programs? And how does one get the relevant contacts which are legally acceptable to contact and engage with regards to this industry?
The government ones, I always say to people, go straight to government. Department of Agriculture, the police in your area should be able to point at you, and Department of Health, and refer to a SAPRA. Those are the places, and it's all on internet. It's there, 10 to 3, check which way the numbers, the official numbers of government, as opposed to get via a lot of consultants that are springing up everywhere. In terms of industry, I would suggest one looks at, I always suggest the Cannabis Development Association of South Africa, the CDC, but there's other associations like the Fields of Green, like the Africa Cannabis Industry Association. There's a number of cannabis associations springing up. Try to get involved in a local industry association, because what I know of government, they've said to industry, if we can be organized so that you are a collective voice as industry, like the automotives are, like the wool is, like the tobacco is, then they'll be able to listen to us. And then also there is the Black Farmers Association, BIFASA, and AFASA, African Farmers Association. Both of them have got active programs on cannabis. Go to the associations if you are a farmer, and go to whatever industry association. And I mean, all business associations, they've got their internal politics, but you get there and you push, you know, because we need somewhere as industry to form an apex that represents us as industry. So then we can sit with government and we can together, without having to fight, shape the industry as we need it to be, so that we are 20 years late. Can we try to start? Okay, it's a beginning of a long industry. Maybe it's got 100 years, but we are at the, maybe another 1,000, because it comes from 1,000, but let's say 100 years, a normal cycle. Let's get on in South Africa and take our rightful place. So industry association and government, go straight to government. Like on Amanje, everybody must be going to their police and their justice around Umia. Our Umia, sifuna Umia way to up South Africa.
Thank you for that answer. Another question coming in from Khadisenyatsi saying, at what scale is one considered or regarded commercial? Is it based on the size of the land, the yield, or the turnover? Where do we go from now informal to commercial? I'm not sure which of you is best equipped to answer this one.
Yeah, maybe let me try here.
Okay, Doc, okay, you try.
Dr. Kunene will add from myself, I will talk from the agronomist point of view. Because in any case, in any production, what you want to do, you want to maximize production per unit area. So it depends as to how much can you produce per area to get the yield you feel it will give you the expected revenue. So first of all, you have to have a land with high potential. If you'll be producing in open land, if you'll be producing in tunnels, you will have to listen to your market and how much do they want, and then you build the tunnels according to the requirement of the market, and then also informed by the revenue that you're gonna generate to make economic sense from your production. So it's difficult to say out of a specific area of land is very difficult really, because you can have 100 hectares of a land with low potential, or you can have 20 hectares of land with a very high potential. So that means a feasibility study has to be conducted first on your land, and then you know what the market demand is, you know where will be your break-even point when you are producing and selling, and then you go for that. You will be informed by the dictates of your natural resources. But as I say, the feasibility study will guide you, especially the land factors and as well as the market demand. It's a very difficult question to answer. It depends on a lot of factors. Maybe Doc can even add.
For hemp, hemp for fibers and seed oil, we established that you need at least about 20 hectares outdoor for it to be commercially viable. But for for recreational use, let's say as a rural development strategy, even 1 hectare we went through models that show which 1 hectare for I'm assuming we've got all the permits in place. We are what was called illegal cannabis farmers, who are the advanced ones, are officially doing this formally. Even 1 hectare would work. Like Tina, for medical cannabis at a state-of-the-art GACP facility, 3 hectares will be more than viable for our business model. So it depends on what do you want to do. Outdoor commercial viability for seed and Lorna, 20 hectares. Indoor, if you're going for CBD or then even 1 hectare can yield enough income, but you still need a substantial amount of control, including the beds.
Thank you for that. We've obviously gone quite a bit over time, and we'll be looking to wrap up at this point. So I do want to say to those of you who haven't sent through your questions yet, officially now I am closing the doors to questions. We just now are going to address the questions that we already have. Just a few more questions that have already been sent through, and then we'll have to be concluding this session for today. So again, just to get through these last 2 or 3 questions that we have here, coming in from Whitney Prince, asking to what extent is DTI, I assume that's the Department of Technology and Innovation, involved to facilitate the capital-intensive processing technologies, equipment, and instrumentation? Again, I'm not sure which of you is best equipped to answer this one.
Can I just say something on something I know? DTI has got a fund, DTI, the trade and industry, I think now it's DTIC. DTI has got the funds to assist Black industrialists, and they've taken an interest in cannabis. And there's many departments within DTI that one can look at. Textiles is very keen, pharmaceuticals is very keen, maybe let's look at that. And then one thing I forgot to say is small business. Small business has started a cannabis incentive fund. So phone your local small business department or even national and ask about it. Between, if you are small, including, I think we need to look at this legalizing what was called illegal, because they know a lot. They should lead this responsible adult use, cannabis as America. That we used to buy, so but let them be formalized. It's legal now to smoke ganja at home, so we don't scared about that. We want us to actually consume our own ganja. So those ones, let them go to small business the small farmers, let them go to Department of Agriculture. And also small business also has got something to do with agriculture. So small business and DTI, go for them. Big industrialists, anything from 50 million onwards, go. Ask DTI and ITC, most of the money is getting, because it gets taken by those who already have. We want the people to stand up and go, because sometimes we complain and we haven't even knocked the door. Let's knock at ITC, let's look at Land Bank, they've got money, let's knock at a small business on DTI.
Thank you for that very inspiring response to that question. Dr. Mfundo, I saw you were saying something, but you were still muted. Were you saying something?
No, Kuhle, I was just agreeing with you, Doc. Thanks.
All right. Okay, just as I said, we are wrapping up. So just a few more things. So Dr. Kunene, there is somebody that wants to know how they can reach you, how they can contact you. Maybe they want to have a conversation with you and use your expertise a little bit more for whatever venture that they have. And also for you, Amanda, there is somebody who's asking if you can please again share the name of the website that you were talking about, where you were able, I think, to register your business as well. And then just from everyone else on the panel, also I will just give this to you as an opportunity to just give the people places where they can contact you, places where they can get the relevant information, whether it be websites or email addresses or anything like that. We'll start with you, Dr. Kunen.
People can contact me at Thandeka, my name THANDEKA, at houseofhemp.co.za, all small letters, House of Hemp, HOUSEOFHEMP.co.za. That's the best. I'm not very good with the cell phone, but the email I do get to it. Thanks.
It is written to our participants. It is written in our chat section. So if you want to copy that, you will find it there. To the rest.
So those the same with me. I would prefer the email, which if it is written in the chat section, then it's fine. But again, it's mfundo.dar.gov.za. So, but if it is written at, in the chat room, I mean in the chat box, then it's great. Thank you.
Amanda?
For me as well, I'll share my email address because I have the link and then I can just send that directly from email. So my email address is a.t.mafanya@gmail.com. That's a.t.mafanya@gmail.com.
All right, and Lucius?
Yes, thank you. I was trying actually to share my last slides was having all the details, all my details. So, but my email is lpaleng@namc.co.za. As in lpaleng.co@nmc.co.za. So that's my email. And also the telephone number is 072-341-1115. These are office numbers.
Okay, and the very last question that I will put forward to our panel is that some people fear that this process of commercialization will lead to price hikes, syndication of cannabis by monopoly traders, since it's still scheduled as a drug and will be taxed heavily like tobacco and the alcohol industries. What response can you have to people with these fears? Since your mic is already unmuted, Lucius, we'll start with you.
Thanks, Kuthe. So from my side, I think there are a few things that we need to address. My issue, I know I'm going to sound like I'm repeating myself, but the issue of those two acts that I've mentioned, the one for drug and drug trafficking act, and also the one on medicine, those ones, they need to find like good grounds where they agree on one thing. Because currently they are conflicting each other, and the second one, the second act on medicine, it can give you an approval to plant a cannabis for medical purpose, but on the other side, you may find that we are going to fight with the police under the Act of Drug and Drug Trafficking Act, and also the issue of bill, which is also need to be addressed. So those are the things that I think they are more critical, or they are stumbling block for our industry to be commercialized. Thanks, Kuja.
Thank you very much, Lucius. Dr. Makubela? Do you need me to repeat the question, or are you with us?
Yes, please repeat it, Kuthe, because I might not have caught it properly.
So some people fear that the commercialization process will lead to price hikes, syndication of cannabis by monopoly traders, since it is still scheduled as a drug and will be taxed heavily like tobacco and the alcohol industries. I was asking, what response would you have then to the people with these fears?
Okay, thanks for the questions. Actually, almost all the questions, they are really helping us to think properly as we are engaging in this industry, as government, as we are assisting our farmers to boost our economy. But coming directly to this question, I think let's what, there is a term that says, let us cross the bridge when we reach it, and let us not also be scared to explore the opportunities. Otherwise, if we are scared of doing what other people are doing, we might be depriving ourselves the opportunities. This industry is not new, as Dr. Kunene in her presentation said. It's already commercialized in a lot of other countries. The fears, they will always be there, and then probably let us also try to build our economy using this industry. But of course, as government, we'll protect our farmers. We make sure that our farmers are not exploited. The taxation things, they are also controlled by the government. So government will try to ensure that people are not exploited in any way. So that is what I can give a chairperson.
Thank you very much, sir. And lastly, but not least, to you, Dr. Kunene, how would you respond to these people with these fears?
Look, the reality is that there was a rumor that came out after the Zondo judgment that cannabis has been pre-captured. And I must say, I panicked when I went to the cannabis expos, and cannabis, which before 2018 was a black industry, has become a white industry. It's a 97% white, when before Zondo, it was a 97% black. So yes, it's true. There's a few monopoly capital happens everywhere in the world, even in Jamaica, it hit them. But in Kaya, in South Africa, we've got a indigenous knowledge policy, which is a law that we can use to make sure that our indigenous communities, which is 90% of South Africa, share in the benefits of commercial cannabis. So that's what I would say. It's there. And if we influence, I want to like, on a very serious note, if we influence our government to give responsible adult use licenses to indigenous farmers, traditional farmers who are there, who just like that, they can switch from being illegal to legal, I think we'll have a thriving economy because it already exists. And I would, Dr. Makubela and all their team, help those farmers to officialize. And let me tell you, the amount of money that we will save will enable us to pay tax, and heavy tax if it needs to be, because it's the third sin, they say, after tobacco and alcohol, and still be able to beat the international markets, because we've got the natural competitive here at home of that responsible adult use. So, and pay tax and have more money. This is now the black farmers who were blacklisted and illegal. They can make more money because they'll be cutting all the cost of illegality and the middlemen that went with it. Our government must teach our Nsango farmers to be standalone businesses and not be hustled by a middleman, normally rich, historically advantaged a dealer. If we cut that and empower them and give them licenses and give them immunity like we gave the guns. Come on, Nsango is not as harmful as guns. We gave the gun people immunity. Let's give the Nsango people immunity so that Dr. Makubela can show agriculture can make an impact to tax in South Africa. Cyril Ramaphosa needs it, President Cyril Ramaphosa.
Yes, yes, yes. And maybe also take away the criminal records of those in the past as well, who have been victimized, we could put it in those words, by what we all know was a very political agenda against marijuana in the past. On that bombshell, I would like us to conclude today. I must, of course, thank our panelists. Thank you very much to you, Lucius. Thank you very much to you, Dr. Makubela. Thank you very much to you, Dr. Kunene. And thank you again to you, Amanda, for joining us and really making this session such an informative session. And I think from looking at the responses and the questions and how really keen people were, it is really interesting to see how many people and how excited people are about this particular industry and how much people really believe in the cannabis plant as a plant going forward for the future, for all sorts of things. I see, Amanda, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to actually just a comment of note in terms of the structure. It's very good what is being done here, and it's theoretically it's sound, but we have to take in account the realistic aspect of it, because looking at Dr. Kunene's scenario, for example, that in order for her to progress to where she is, she had to get external investors. It's things we have to look at, and we know like majority of investors that would come in are predominantly historically advantaged, and these are the things that would actually dictate how the sector is overall over time. And these are the things that government needs to look at this stage of the game, and also looking at, because now which I understand people's concerns in terms of like the licensing and everything else that comes. It seems the structure in itself is a very standardized way of doing things, whereas the experience of the people differ according to where they are, according to how they approach farming and whatnot. So I think it would be something that is kind of like a keynote while we're doing research, in terms of predominantly this section of people, this is how they do, and this is where they thrive, this is where they thrive, and this section of people, in order, because when the DTI part of it came, it's something that I've been looking into, and when I look at the research and going back, it needs me to have a historically advantaged person to come with me and say, okay, this is my surety. This person will be able to make sure that I have everything in order, that I can actually work at this alone up until such a time that money is injected into my project, which is something that is already like setting us back. As we need to have that vision of, are we looking at benefiting majorly the historically disadvantaged people of our country, and what exactly is it that we are aiming to achieve from this setup that we have? Because and there's also this thing of, the moment people see the licensing format and be like, okay, you know what, it will be easier for me to just sell. And what is in place for such people? And I think it's a vital time, as much as there's research being done, how then do we encourage the expansion of this research and make sure that, as much as people will always be left out, but curb it as much as possible to benefit the people that we are actually making these packages for. I thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Amanda, for really actually reiterating and re-emphasizing what I think has been the general theme of concerns of many people today that have joined us. And again, on that note, I will say that it is time for us to conclude. We have gone really over time, and to be honest, there was so much more that so many people wanted to discuss. I had my own list of questions coming into this session that I had no chance to ask because of the time constraints. And again, I say, it's very exciting to see how many people are interested. It's very exciting to see that the perceptions, the historical perceptions towards cannabis are beginning to change, and that I like to call it the marijuana revolution is really starting. And it's great to have experts like you, distinguished people, because when we talk about marijuana, the people will think that it's these potheads who can't think and can't do this and can't do that. But we've got very distinguished people that are here advocating for this industry and really giving it its deserved legitimacy. So thank you very much for being with us here today, and we will, on that note, be concluding. To those of you who are with us here on Zoom, there on Facebook, I must encourage you to also take a moment to go and look at our other webinars that we have on the various platforms, mainly Facebook, of the things that we have done up until now, and also obviously to just get clues of the things that are coming up. It's a very interesting theme that we are following this year, which is Take Root and Nurture, as we celebrate the International Year of Plant Health, as was proclaimed by the United Nations. Unfortunately, we could not have a physical festival because of COVID-19 and all the restrictions that it brought upon us. But this virtual festival allows us as SciFest Africa to really have a platform where we can extend the SciFest. Instead of having it now over a period of a week, it is now going to be a 6-month period, and much more is going to get discussed. So thank you very much, and do join us for our upcoming sessions, and goodbye.
Bye. There I go. Bye-bye, guys.